Welcome to the Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast, a space where all spiritual seekers are honored and celebrated. This podcast was born from the journeys of your hosts, who have each faced her own dark night of the soul, but they've emerged with an unshakable belief in divine connection, cosmic inspiration, and her true life's calling. Join us on a journey of personal growth, transformation, and magical self-discovery. Your first co-host is Chloe Brown, a gifted intuitive empath and shadow work life coach. Your second co-host is Keone Starr, an intuitive energy worker and acclaimed past life regressionist. The Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast starts now. This morning we have IO Kirkwood with us, and we're so excited to have you here. IO
is a fund advisor for Serenity and Soul, which is a 501c3 fund of the Community Foundation of Carroll County in Maryland. She manages the event center that provides free programming on metaphysical practices such as Reiki, tarot, and guided meditations. She also assists with the metaphysical store, Serenity and Soul, which is located in the Town Mall of Westminster, Maryland. IO has been a metaphysical practitioner and tarot reader for 38 years and is descended from a priestess tradition from County Cork, Ireland. She leads a Maiden, Mother, and Crone community group intended to empower women and connect them with their spiritual gifts.
Yes.
Wow. That in itself deserves a pause and huge accolades.
Thank you for having me.
We love what you're doing with the women's spiritual empowerment movement in your group. And we would really love if you could help explain what led you here, what your spiritual journey looks like.
Well, my spiritual journey started in utero.
The best answer ever. Boom, done it. Wrap it up. What are we going to do the next 45 minutes?
I just love that. Do you think it was the moment of conception, IO? Oh, we don't want to go down that path.
Well, actually, no. I think I had chosen my parents and my mother especially, specifically because of the work that I needed to do here. And the thing is, I'm not going to be famous. I might be, but that's not the point. The point is that each and every one of us has our own little piece to do. And so if my group is small, my group is large, if I'm doing it in love and I'm treating my entire life like a spiritual journey, then it is well worth it. Everything that I do is just a tiny little pebble hitting a large lake, and those ripples just going outward and outward and outward until they lap to the other shore. You know, it's the butterfly effect. So everything you think, everything you say, everything you do is going to have that effect on your spiritual journey. Your only requirement is to decide, what ripples am I going to send out? That's it. My grandmother is an example. Okay. Now, she was a devout Catholic. She completely eschewed and said, no, 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 Mom, I'm not carrying on the pagan tradition. And this upset my Nan so much. My Nan was very worried that our tradition would die out. But my grandmother, through her Catholic faith, was one of the most loving, kind, and generous people. And the people in my family speak of her kindness and generosity to this day. Even my children knew what a saint she was. And it was genuine kindness. I chose this family so that not only would I have the Christianity aspect of it, but I would also have the pagan aspect of it. And it came with gifts. And these gifts were apparent in me from a very young age. And one of the gifts is called the voice. And the voice, basically, it's a singing voice, but it is also a persuasion voice, as if one of my ancestors went to the Blarney Stone and kissed it passionately. We also had fairy contact. I experienced fairy contact at the age of 4. I think that there's fairies everywhere, but they travel. And the ones that contacted me had traveled from Ireland with my family. I was told that for 2 generations, the fairy contact had been refused, and I was the first one to not refuse it. I was 4 years old. I was able to talk to trees. I had all of these experiences that to other people may seem strange or maybe not, but my family normalized them.
Wow, that's huge.
It is huge. So, one of the gifts that I bring to the table is normalizing the experiences of other people because they were explained to me as a child.
There's so much power in that. I can only speak for myself, but I doubt everything until somebody else is helping me calibrate. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I see it? And so being surrounded by somebody like you,
Mhm.
that's powerful.
I mean, my mother had refused the fairy contact, but it was because she didn't know what to do with it. But she normalized it for me. She even sent me to communion without confession because she did not believe in that. She believed that I had a personal relationship with the Christ, and I always moved through everything with that understanding. And it even applied to what we call the gods. I don't worship anything. What I do is I co-create with these beings, these frequencies, these energies. I do not sacrifice my sovereignty to give over to something else. Instead, what I do is I will lend my energy and you lend yours, and we will co-create what we want to see in this world. And I will only work with those beings who are humanists. I will not work with anything that has a nihilistic tendency. And a lot of people think that Kali or the Morrigan are nihilistic. They are not. No, these are sacred women's rage.
Mhm.
It's the sacred women's warrior. Just like we have male warriors, we have female warriors. And that energy is not nihilistic, it is protective.
Wait, you mean women are people?
Oh my goodness, what a novel idea, especially among the Irish.
Ah,
Brehon law. You have to remember that women in Ireland were considered very powerful. And of course, when the Scandinavian cultures came down and invaded, it was a similar vibe. Women had power, women were warriors. Boudica. When you think of all of these female warriors from the Irish and British traditions, and you look at their mythology and you realize that women were not demeaned, they were not diminished.
yes,
You
very
know,
uplifted, very empowered,
able
righteous.
to own land, able to own their own bodies.
Yeah, make
And
decisions.
and the interesting thing is that in doing all of that, we have managed to infiltrate just about every culture in the world with our genetics. We've shagged everybody. So everyone has access epigenetically to the Celtic cultures. I consider this one of the things where the indigenous of Europe, of Great Britain, but it belongs to everybody because we're everywhere.
Can I ask a question, Io, of why your grandma chose not to follow the indigenous traditions and embrace the Catholic Church?
It's my understanding that she was incredibly gifted prophetically because prophecy was one of the gifts that came through as well. We have glamour, the voice, prophecy. I can do psychometry. So if I still myself enough, I can actually tell you what an object has experienced. Of course, doing the cards and everything, I think we had some type of either the alum sticks or runes or something of that sort that we were able to use to help people figure out their lives. And so my grandmother, I believe, saw things that frightened her, and she took refuge in the Catholic Church because she was able to label those things as evil and therefore resist them, and then they didn't bother her anymore. So for her, Catholicism was a shield. And yet, with all the saints and everything, it was close enough to the older tradition that she felt comfortable there. She was a very devout Catholic. She had a personal relationship with Mary, of course, and with Jesus. So she was just very devout. She worked a lot to help people who were less fortunate. That's how our family was raised. My mother started getting back into it probably right around the time that I started my first coven at age 15. At age 15, I was with a group of girls and I didn't know what it was. I just knew that we were doing telepathy and astrology and tarot and little rituals and things of that sort. And it was fun. And then when my mom figured out that's what I was doing at age 17, she sat me down and said, "Hey, do you want to learn tarot?" She called it tarot. And you could call it whatever you want, tarot, tarot. I don't care as long as you're understood. And I was like, sure. I thought it was really neat because I hadn't gotten into this part of it. I'd just done the astrology. And then she says, here's a set of cards. And she hands me her cards. And let me tell you, these things looked like they had been through hell. They'd been used so much that the edges were worn off and they were real thick. Even though they were small cards, they were thick with oil because she had just shuffled them so much and used them. So I'm holding this and I can feel her energy all over this deck. How am I going to do this? She taught me the 3-card spread first, and I turn everything over and I said, okay, this, that, and the other thing. She goes, okay, that's pretty good. And then I started studying it. And as I got older, I was the only person she would allow to read for her. And there was one day where I looked at her and I said to her, okay, I had a Celtic cross sitting in front of me. And I said to her, you're going to get an offer from a friend. And I'm like, where the hell is this coming from? You're going to get an offer from a friend for a job. I said, and you're going to probably accept the job. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to make a decision about this job based on your morals, and you're going to probably lose a friend in it too. My mom's like, where is this nonsense coming from? I didn't know which friend it was. She's like, my friend called. She's offering me a job. My mother was a CNA, so she was going to help this person's elderly parents. So she starts doing the job. About 6 months later, she calls me up and she goes, I have to make a decision about whether I'm going to continue doing this or lose a friend because she is abusing her parents. She's stealing their money. She's not taking care of them. She's somewhere in India. Your reading came absolutely true. She's like, I'm going to have to get her brother involved, and we're not going to be friends anymore. And there's probably going to be a trial. And then she says this at the end. She goes, I think you're more powerful than me. And I said, no, Mom, the point of this is not about power. This is simply about opening. It's about being absolutely trusting about what you're seeing, about what you're feeling, about the frequency that you are pulling in, and trusting yourself and the universe. So I made it very clear to my mother. I was like, no, we come from a long line of women who are able to do this. I've simply done more studying than you have. And you're my mother. I'm connected to you in a way that I'm not connected to other people. Spiritual journey speaking wise, my whole life has been a spiritual journey in a human body.
How did you get so involved in traditions and the craft that sounds like it came from Ireland, Cork County?
Yeah, Cork County.
How does that blend?
When I was 17, I was living with my father at the time. I had just started at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I was an English major. And I was watching a National Geographic documentary while I was at home, and I heard this voice come out of the TV. And I know it sounds strange, but that's what I heard. And it said, you will change your degree from English to anthropology.
How did you react to that? Did you go check your temperature?
No, I looked at the TV looking for a face and everything. And then I went, okay. So what happened was I left UMBC. I went to community college of Baltimore County, and I started general studies with a concentration in anthropology because they had that. Within a month, I received a full scholarship. Yes, I got a 4.0 doing that whole program. And I had physical anthropology, I had regular anthropology. I was all set up. I had psychology, all of that stuff. They paid for the entire thing. And I did so well that I won them the Edith Ports Award for community colleges in the United States. So I was the community college student of like 1990. Edith
Wow.
Ports, right? And it was just fascinating. And then I went on to Towson. I changed my major to art, which was total contradiction. I lost everything. I had to move back home. I couldn't go to school anymore. And then, of course, I had a child. So threw a wrench in the works. The universe, oh, you don't want to listen? Because I was supposed to be with all of those ancient alien people. That's
Yeah.
what they had in store for me. Because I would have gotten caught up in all of it because I was studying Uto-Aztecan culture. I was studying gender roles. I was studying magical traditions, shamanism, the whole thing. That's what they wanted me to do.
My eyes just glazed over and the little heart emojis.
You know? So that was the path they had me on. Of course, I wouldn't have been able to see it back then. Who would have known? Instead, I had a child because what they realized was I was too overshadowed by what my mom wanted for me, which was what she had wanted for herself, that I wasn't ready. The universe will do this to you every time. You are meant for amazing things that will fulfill you and nourish you. But if you allow your traumas to overcome your intuition and things of that sort, then you're going to be put in a situation that will grow you more. And that is what happened. I had my first child, Corey, and he grew me. He showed me so much about my own personal trauma. My rage, he acquired it. He showed me how it goes down through the line epigenetically. And I remember looking at him when he was older and saying to him, honey, not all of that anger belongs to you. Why don't you give it back? And when he gave it back, things started to really open up for him. And he started to become the friend that everybody came to because he was so compassionate and kind now, because that rage was no longer there.
I have to brag about Corey for a moment. He and my daughter were partners for quite a while. He treated my daughter super well. They had a roommate for a period of time who I think was probably neurodivergent. Corey told me, I try to be patient with our roommate. I explained when their portion of the bills are due. I explained what it means to be a proper roommate. And I explained to them what it means to clean up behind themselves. You're not living at home anymore. And I'm listening to him as if he's educating someone for the first time on how to be a productive roommate and in a shared living situation, because it was that individual's first time, as far as I know. Instead of saying, look, you're late on the rent, you're this, you're that. I said to Corey, I'm just so proud of you for taking in an individual who needed a place and then showing them the compassion and the empathy that they needed to explain that situation. And then Corey kicked him out, which I loved.
Boundaries.
but but he took the time and he said, look, I've taught you, this is what we expect. And after a period of time when the individual wasn't able to keep up their end of the deal, then it's time for them to go. But it was done in compassion and empathy. And I said, damn, that's a good guy.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy to see someone that was young but emotionally intelligent.
Yes, if I was going to be raising these humans, because I have two of them, then the first thing is that they're not mine. They are mine to care for, but they don't belong to me. And that's a huge thing. When you treat a child as though they are not yours to own, but yours to care for, they're all going to have challenges. They all are, right? They're going to misbehave. They're going to do all of those things. But the minute you decide mine to take care of, mine to care for, just like you would your pets. And people are a lot nicer to their pets than they are to their kids when you think about it. Also, let me prepare you for success in the world. You learn so much about yourself and what hurt you. I remember when Corey turned 18, and I did this with Brennan too. I said, what about being my child would you have wished me to do differently? And he told me. And I sat there and I said, okay. I was like, I own that. I own that. I own that. May I tell you why I was like that? Because you're making me look at myself and I understand I have self-awareness. I understand why I did those things. Can I tell you about my trauma so that we could share this together and heal it? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And I told him what I had done wrong, what had been done to me, and why I knew that it was wrong now, and that I didn't want him to hold on to these things. And that's why we were having this conversation. I said, I want you to move through life without all the baggage that I had to carry. And he's so much farther along than I was. I grew up a lot later than he did. And your spiritual journey is about you maturing and becoming your fullest potential as a human being, not as a service, not as a thing, not as a commodity, but as a freaking human. You're not to be sold. You are to exist and you are to vibrate love and compassion and boundaries too, because there are people out there who don't know what this is all about and they will take advantage of that. The idea here is what you need to do is develop your self-awareness and then be as gentle with yourself as you would be with other people. It's really not that hard, but it's the hardest thing you could ever do. So there are people that I enjoy following, and one of my favorite people is Teal Swan. And the reason I enjoy her so much is, regardless of the controversy that is around her, she has genuine good stuff to impart. And it's controversial, but at the same time, it is what we need to heal. So her parts work, her self-love, all of the things, these are things that I developed separately on my own that work. So I can validate her work because I developed it separately. I call it something completely different. I just call it shadow work, but it's the 7 parts of self. I use the Kabbalah and I have talked to all my parts. And let me just tell you, most of them are sassy. I choose the Irish tradition, and I'm Irish American. Let's be very clear. I am not Irish. I'm of Irish descent, but so strongly that they've come through with the fairy contact. That is part of that tradition. And when I was studying anthropology, I read all the books. The one that's on the Irish fairy tradition, there's just all these books that were written by people who had actually gone out into the field and talked to these people. And then I also joined a fairy coven when I was 26, and that's FERI. That is Victor Anderson out of West Virginia. There are multiple sects of this tradition as well. I go up to Salem because that's where one of them are. I did all the Avalon and King Arthur stuff. I studied all of the Irish Celtic. One of the gods that I worked with was Angus MacGog, and he was sort of the masculine representation of the fairy contact as well, a fairy knight. What you do in that tradition is you join with your fetch. And there's also a similar thing in the Nordic tradition of the runes with Odin. You join with your fetch, which is sort of like your other or even your higher self. And then that fusion allows you to pull your higher self down through into the vessel. It's sort of like if you have clay and you push a finger down into it, the deeper you go in, the more conscious you are. It's a very good metaphor for it because you are made of clay. But the idea is this finger of God, which is what your higher self is, goes down into that clay and you just try and get that finger deep down until it hits the core. And then you operate from there, because then you have access to all of your past lives. You have access to all of the frequencies in the Akashic records. And then you're pulling it through for the benefit of humanity and God and the animals and everything, until what happens is you become like those gurus that sit on the top of the mountain, just pumping your frequency out, and it goes a mile out, and that entire area just thrives. That's what we're supposed to be. Now we've got all of this consciousness coming into being. We've got 8 billion people on this planet, and they can all do that because the energy is limitless. But the reason why there's so many of us is because so few of us are doing it. And so what's happening is we have people who are doing small portions of it, but we don't have a lot of people who are really pushing their finger down into the clay. A lot of people are under the impression that this is all there is. And that's just simply not the case.
So do you think the steps to get deeper in the clay
Mm-hmm.
is to continuously look at ourselves and do what? How can we be part of that change? I'm listening.
Your environment reflects back to you exactly what you think. So whatever you think is going to show up in your environment. So if you think you're a piece of, then that's going to be reflected back to you. People will tell you that you're that. They will treat you like that. They will act in a way that makes you feel that way. Anywhere from 80 to 95% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. A good chunk of these are just getting through our day, but there are also programs that you have received from when you were a little bitty baby to the time that you were about 7, where you couldn't defend yourself and you were programmed. Other people's self-hatred. If you were lucky, you were programmed with other people's self-love. And then you grew to love yourself. And there are people out there, and they're not on this type of journey. A lot of the people who are on this type of journey have been harmed significantly. They have come face to face with malevolence, someone who wanted to hurt them. And that's why they're on this journey, because they're learning how to heal that so that they can show other people how to heal it. And that's what I'm here for. I have to constantly catch myself. I have to be so self-aware that when I think a thought, it used to be, I want to die. I used to be suicidal. I want to die. I want to die. I don't want to be cancel, because now I want to be here. I want to be here, and I want to be here and really live it and love it. But those were the thoughts that I was thinking. So now it comes up every now and then, because this is an old program, and I'll hear it and I'm like, that's not what we're doing now. What we're doing is, I want to live. We're here because we're happy to be here. We're here because we're learning how to heal. And we're here because other people need us to heal. So being really self-aware, catching those thoughts, tuning into them and going, oh, we're going to change this right now. And it can be as simple as, I don't want to get up and do the dishes. I know they need to be done, but I don't want to do them. And you go, we need to do the dishes. It is time to do the dishes. And you keep changing it, and you keep telling yourself that. And all of a sudden your body gets up and it goes and does the dishes, because your body listens to everything you tell it. And it listens to everything you say about everybody else. And it goes, I don't know the difference. So if you say it about somebody else, you better want it to be something your body believes.
So what you're saying is super powerful, because our reality is our mirror and our bodies are our mirror.
Yes. Whatever it is that is telling you this stuff, that's me. My body is simply a vessel, but it is a very important vessel. It's one I should cherish and take very good care of, because it helps me to operate in this plane. It's like if you go out into space and you treat your spacesuit really shabby, it's not going to hold up, and you're not going to be able to go in space anymore. So take good care of it, but you are not the spacesuit. Whatever is animating it is what you are. Whatever is thinking the thoughts is what you are. It sounds really simple, but the hard part is catching yourself.
Immediately, before you even go down that road, don't throw that out there.
I'm completely aware of what I'm supposed to do, and I still catch myself saying something about somebody else that I shouldn't be saying. This thing doesn't know the difference. It thinks I'm talking about me. Or the other day, I said something, we're not going to. Your body doesn't understand. Your subconscious mind does not understand no. It only understands the positive. So if you say, I am not ugly, your body hears, I'm ugly. That's what it hears. And so you're reinforcing that. I've actually caught myself going, I'm not such and such, and going, whoa, 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 whoa. I have to really think. It's so hard because you can feel the neural pathways going, and you're like, ooh, I have to think of something different. I have to burn this new pathway.
You're right, though. I mean, if I say I'm not ugly, ugly has a frequency.
Yes.
And if I say I am beautiful, it feels different, even in my
Yes.
chest, right? So I
Yes.
totally get what you mean, even though intellectually it doesn't mean the same. Somatically, I can feel that difference.
Yes. Yes, it absolutely is. Muscle testing is a valid thing. Your body can tell when you are telling the truth and when you are lying. There are certain things that always work, such as love and compassion. They're just certain fundamental things about your spiritual journey that you want to learn that work.
Just had an epiphany that authenticity is actually the highest frequency. And I just realized why. Because authenticity is self love.
Yes. Yes.
Into the mountain, and I'm sitting up there, guys, pushing it out.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing, because the person who's sitting on top of the mountain and pushing that frequency out is the most authentic person in the area.
Okay. I love this. I'm on board for this conversation, but I live in that stutter moment between the two worlds that you're talking about because my brain cannot comprehend what my body knows to be true. And what my body knows to be true is exactly what you two are speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
I get so caught up in that stutter moment of which one am I going with, my head or my body resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it gets easier eventually.
It does.
But I think the thing that nobody talks about is exactly what you're talking about, is recognizing that, yes, it seems so easy. Yes, it sounds so simple. Yes, we're all hopefully aspiring to be to those levels in some degree, but intention is everything. It is hopefully more normal than not to have this stuttering moment and to be graceful and kind to ourselves. Because going back to what you're saying, if in that glitchy moment, I start using the old programming and just for a glitch of a second, if I am harsh or berating myself, everything I just worked for is just washed out and I got to start all over again. Thank you for bringing awareness to this because grace and ease and forgiveness within our own self is important because we're not perfect.
No, we're not perfect. Humility is one of those foundational things that belongs to authenticity. Humility is something that you have to have because otherwise you will become corrupt through the ego. So the idea here is, yes, give yourself grace. Now, I'm going to give you a little trick that worked for me.
Please do.
So when I caught myself thinking things, and you saw me do it earlier, cancel, 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 delete. Cancel, 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 delete. You're a program. That program, you are canceling the operation before it can take effect, and then you're deleting it. This is something I was taught. Nothing I'm telling you is proprietarily mine. Everything belongs to the Akashic records, and there are multiple people across the world who are having the same ideas. And this is by design. We have 8 billion people to get to. I'm not going to be the one. I'll be one of the ones, but I'm not going to be the one. I see what Teal Swan goes through, and she speaks of it openly. And she is absolutely correct. No one purposefully wants that kind of life, all right? Because it's not what we're designed for. Now, the fact that she's troopering on and everything, I give kudos. But the fact of the matter is that there are a whole bunch of people like me out there who are doing the same thing so that she doesn't have to do it for everybody. And then I point them in the direction of the content that she creates to help boost the signal, right? Because why rewrite the book when it's already there? This is about efficiency, people.
Yes. And that brings it back to supporting and uplifting each other.
And the words that you use are going to affect you. The thoughts that you think are going to affect you. The actions you take are going to affect you. So what kind of actions do you want to do? Recently, I just bought a new vehicle. I spent more on this vehicle than I have spent on anything other than a house in my life. And I was just like, what? And the voice in my head, because that old money program's rolling. And I'm just like, wait a minute. And then I hear this voice, you're not overcommitting yourself. What you're doing is you're realigning your priorities so that they match what you need. So you're not in a money crisis at all. That's the old panic program. What you're in is a redistribution of what your priorities are with your money. And I bought the vehicle because it matched everything that I wanted to do for others, as well as myself. Reminding myself of that, because that panic program is really hard to overcome. And so it's just constantly cancel, delete. And you say that until you feel it leave your body. You do not have to just say it once. You say it until the feeling leaves your body. So you feel the feeling as you're doing cancel, delete, and then you let it go. So
Release that which does not serve us 100%. In your intro, one of the things that I discovered in you that I would also really like to learn about is Maiden Mother Crone group.
Okay, yes. So we call it the Crone Circle, but it's open to women of all ages because one of the big issues, the big power steal from patriarchal culture is women aging, because we are only valued for our beauty and what we can do in the home. And I'm totally not about that, okay? I'm not. I'm about women's power. We are strong. We are amazing. We have all these gifts and talents that we bring into the world, and raising children is just one of them. But the thing I also feel very strongly about is creating a place for men. Just women are there, but the idea is to foster these wild women rising up so that men have something to create a container for. So in my understanding, women multiply. You give us something, we multiply it, right? We know how to do that. But when we hit menopause, we learn the male way of doing things. And what men do is concentrate. When a male is healthy, their power is in concentrating things, right? They're able to contain things, which you would think a container is something that receives, but it's also something that concentrates. So the idea here is that we look at what the actual masculine and feminine roles, and men do multiply. This is not about, creating these terribly specific gender roles. Men can multiply just as readily as women do if they know how to do it. But we're physically wired to know how to do it naturally, just like men are physically wired to the concentration part natural. When you hit menopause, everything switches around and you learn how to concentrate. So the interesting thing is that one of the things in the occult history is the men magicians would try and make themselves androgynous because that's where the true power lies. But they don't have any specific physical thing that allows them to do that naturally. Women do. We're able to do both. But the first part of our life is spent in multiplying because that's how nature designed us. But then that second part. And we're one of the only species, there's like 2 others, that has menopause. And nature doesn't do anything for no reason at all, right? What happens is the grandmothers and that wisdom that can be passed down to the children and the people who are still in procreation, that wisdom is concentrated in us. So there's this natural concentration, and then we allow it to go out because we also know how to multiply. So it's just a beautiful thing. And I want to remind women that this is our function. And it's not just for other women, it's for the men too. And it's so that they can be their most powerful selves. They can be there, support humanity. Anyone who is a humanist who wants the flourishing of humanity is my friend. That's how I see it. Anyone who is a nihilist and hates humanity, we can't truck, right? Like, and this is the intolerance paradox. If you can't tolerate humans, I can't tolerate you. Okay? So I just have to say that my spiritual journey is about eudaimonia, human flourishing. And this Crone circle is one of the ways that I contribute to that. I do tarot shares the first and third Tuesdays of every month. And this is at the Town Mall of Westminster, Maryland. We're introducing people to Reiki. They're finding themselves, or they're like, I've always wanted to read tarot, but I never had the opportunity. I have a philosophy. If you want to learn how to do tarot, I will teach you for free. You're doing the work, not me. I'm just showing you what I've learned. If you want me to read for you, pay me, right? Right? It just makes perfect sense. And this is about the energy of exchange. And it's in adherence with ancient witchcraft laws too, you know? So I do that as part of my offering to humans because I don't use it as a divination tool. I use it as a self-development tool. This is where you get to be self-aware. This is where you get to look at different stories that maybe you hadn't considered before. This is pinpointing things that you didn't think were important, but the universe is like, actually.
So with that, where do you think that women struggle when it comes to their spiritual empowerment?
Our societal conditioning starts at a really young age. And we are taught to make ourselves small. We are taught to be quiet, to be seen, not heard, to be always helpful, to always support other people's projects. So this is the conditioning and the need for self-awareness that I'm telling you about. And that's the stumbling block. We've gone over it. It's the cancel, 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 delete, right? Constantly bringing yourself back to awareness that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And women are spiritual, men are spiritual. We're all having this experience. We are all equal in the eyes of the divine. No matter how screwed up you are, no matter how much harm you've caused, even Adolf Hitler is equal in the eyes of the divine. And I truly believe that evil is used for the greatest benefit. We were talking in the Past Lives Cafe about the Holocaust. I was just a small child, but I had gone there because I had a lot of karma to get rid of because I was a serial killer in the previous life. So I went to Auschwitz and was gassed. And it did. It cleared a lot of karma. So the thing is that the divine, because we're all part of it, we're up there before we manifest in a human body. We're talking about the lessons that we need to learn and the things that we're carrying with our energy field, right? How do we purify it? How do we align it to the divine? And so we come here to have these experiences. And in this case, women are having the experience of oppression. And it's different from the oppression that Black people are experiencing. I'm not trying to equate anything here. We've come in because we have not only oppression, but we also have privilege. And that is a duality that we have to reconcile. So the idea here is that you need to have humility. You need to be aware of your privilege. You need to be aware of where you're oppressed and where your voice is being made small. And you can't do it all at once. It's just a constant. The lesson will keep coming and it'll get stronger and stronger until you get it. And I do have I do have an example of that. It's pretty Harry, but I had issues with narcissists throughout my life. I'm an empath, and it's because of narcissistic abuse. I was constantly on high alert. I could always tell when somebody was having a problem because I was trained from a very young age to figure out when someone was not okay and are you a threat to me? So the idea here is that I had this pattern and I kept choosing really crappy partners. And the one partner that I chose that was really good became my ex-husband. Usually, bipolar 2 is because you have been traumatized. It presents in very specific ways. And if you heal that trauma, the bipolar actually resolves and goes into remission. What was happening, I'm struggling with my trauma illness, and I'm having these lukewarm and very unsatisfying but narcissistic interactions with people. It's making me cry. I'm wondering why they're not treating me well, et cetera, et cetera. And so I finally, after one relationship, I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I got to figure out how to not do this anymore. But you have to believe in your sovereignty. And that is the issue that women have. In fact, that's the issue all humans have. Do you believe that you are sovereign? Do you believe in your magnificence as basically a piece of God here on earth? And there's a humility to this because you realize you're only one small piece and that everyone else around you is a piece of God as well. And the idea here is that you're going to stumble with this. You have to find your sovereignty, not your self-worth, right? Self-worth is tied into sovereignty, but it's the sovereignty that you want because then when you speak, the mountains move. And it's something that can exponentially increases in your life. So it may start out small and you're like, I'm not really seeing anything happening here. And then you suddenly turn around and look behind you and you're like, wow, look how far I've come. This is a lesson. I just need to see what's coming at me. And then I need to respond appropriately in alignment with my values. And that's what I did. And then all of a sudden, everything's opening up, new opportunities. This podcast was one of them because I said I wanted to speak to people and giving them encouragement because I was saying to the people that I work with, this is our opportunity to dream. As we watch everything crumble in front of us, this is getting rid of the things that don't work anymore. And what we need to do is instead of being angry, instead of being afraid, we need to dream what we want the future to be. We need to become the change we want to see. And I actually have a live that I do. And right now we're going over a rudimentary basic Kabbalah for the tarot. It's called the Tarot and the Tree. I feel very fortunate that I have this opportunity. It's small, but it's doing what it needs to do.
What you were saying, it threw me back a moment when I was leaving that domestic violent marriage. Everyone around me kept saying, you need to tell him how you feel and tell him he's not pulling one on you and just clear the air before you walk away. But then the moment I got there, it was like, but why? It would fall on deaf ears. Like there was no need. I had spoke my truth for almost 10 years. Why try now? And it was this powerful moment of inner strength, a reminder of my own depth to not just survive, but to thrive. That is the moment that I will look back on. And I feel like as you were describing all of that, that is what it just kept bringing me back to.
These memories that you hold, you should be revisiting them, especially if they're empowering, because that's the frequency that you're emitting at the time you're remembering it, which means you're drawing that to you. So it's incredibly important to consistently even journal about those moments. I journaled about that moment so that it was burned into my brain. You can throw the journal away. It's the writing and the movement of your hand as you're writing it down, basically imprints it on your body. So when you have these realizations, write it down. Write it out. Remember how you feel. Sit in that feeling and just pump that vibration of sovereignty out. These are the small steps that we take towards owning our power until it becomes a habit. That's all you're trying to do is form a habit.
Let's talk sound healing for a few minutes. This is one way to recognize our sovereignty on a cellular level. For those of us who are into music,
we understand that every note has, regardless of where you are on the octave, has its own frequency. And our chakras correlate with a specific note. And so when you're putting out solfeggio tones, each chakra is going to resonate in alignment with that specific note, right? And so many people speak to how music is so healing for
Yes.
them, but they don't know that this is on a cellular level. When people have the opportunity, and I commend you, IO, so much, because so many people don't have the opportunity to be in a sound healing experience. It is life-changing. And you feel clean, you feel refreshed, you feel energized and relaxed all at the same time. It's amazing.
The use of these tones is not unknown to churches and things of that sort. So, you need to be mindful of that because maybe they don't have the best of intentions. Just as long as you are aware that your high emotional states can be triggered by music, and that there are people who are not Christians, who are Christians, who are not necessarily nice either, that know how to use these frequencies to manipulate you on a cellular level. So I'm putting that out there. I'm not saying that anyone's trying to do that. It's just that I've become aware that it has been done, and I don't want anyone to be in a position where they don't have the knowledge to say, I didn't know that was happening.
It's so interesting you say that because the power of tone was discussed in one of Dolores Cannon's books, where she talks about how the Essenes were able to repel with sound people who were coming to intrude their space and such.
Yes.
And if you can repel an enemy army,
Yes.
you can program someone to buy something subliminally in the grocery store.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You got it.
So it's
Yes.
not supposed to be this deep, dark conspiracy theory. What we're talking about is these things are happening all around us, and we may not even realize it.
Right. And I want you to be aware of it because that is part of the spiritual journey, is learning how the avatar works so that you can avoid having it manipulated against your sovereignty.
So I think awareness is key because that, for me, has been the initiator for all movement in my life.
It's also the stumbling block. It's the stumbling block because inherently we are lazy. We all are. I mean, even the go-getters are avoiding something. Well, let's talk about magic, okay, and the actual performance of magic. I've been performing magic for years and years and years, and really it's just a psychological operation. This is psychology. So basically, what I do is I create an atmosphere around me that has scent and sound and visuals that correspond to the things that I want. And I move my body in rhythm to the music that is there. I say things and I say them in a particular voice that feels resonant through my body. It's called the voice of power. And so when I state my intentions, I state it from that channel, which is the Shushumna, right? Where all the chakras line up. And I pull it from the very depths of me and I intone, right? So I'm doing all of these things. What I am doing is programming my body to do the things, to put out that energy so it reflects back to me what I want, right? And magic is like science lab. Okay, you try things and you see what reflects back to you, what the experiment brings up to you. Well, they're doing this to populations. Okay. All right. And they're figuring out what works and what doesn't. The occult masters have known about the susceptibility of human avatars to these various stimulations. And that's why some have decided that the whole physical body thing is just a waste of time. And that you should be escaping from it because all it does is manipulate you. But people like myself are like, hey, wait a minute. We want to learn how to figure out a way to meet that and use it ourselves, but for our own betterment, for the betterment of humanity. Okay. The whole reason this thing exists is because we're here to learn how to work with the five senses, as well as all the other senses that we have, which we usually have even when we're not in a physical body. Those are the senses we came in with because they were needed in that other realm, and that is the dream realm as well. So you have those senses in the dream realm. But in the physical body, they get muted because these senses, not because they're any less powerful, but because these physical senses are so much more powerful. So the idea here is bringing your awareness to the fact that you are a vehicle that can be influenced and deciding how you want to be influenced and who is allowed to influence you and in what way you should be influenced. That's magic.
Please correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I boil it down, what you're saying is they're using magic against us at the grocery store, essentially, using that
Yes,
same example that we were just using.
yes,
Please
you're
correct me if
absolutely
I'm wrong.
correct. It's black magic. And the difference between good magic and black magic is whether there's consent. That's the really important thing to understand, is that your extrasensory is actually your default sensory. And that the physical senses are actually your extrasensory because here you are in the physical world. All right. So really, it's just amazing that we can feel and that we can see and that we can hear and that we can smell. And that's why people enjoy physical life so much, is because these are things you can experience nowhere else. And I've died before in this body. This body was dead, as in I had gone into a coma. I was gone. And I went to the very beginning of creation. There was nothing there, but there was everything there. And I was the very center of it all. And when I came back, I was like, no tunnel, no seeing my loved ones or anything. No, I had gone past that. And I've actually seen that place before. I asked, why am I not meeting God? Like, I was told I was going to meet God. And they're like, you have met God. Where do you think God is? And I'm like, oh, in me? Absolutely. That's why you go to the very center, beginning, outside of time, space, very beginning of creation. This is how Creator felt at the very beginning of time. There is nothing here for me to interact with. This is the reason creation happened, so that Creator could get to know us all.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've actually given you an invocation, which is cancel, 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 delete. However,
That's my mantra now.
it's a mantra, yes. I support the work of a lot of different people with my attention. And one of the most powerful, woman-oriented invocations is, I take my power back by joy and soul. And this woman's voice, oh my goodness, she speaks with power, and it just goes right through me. In fact, her song has been instrumental in focusing me, and I use it in ritual an awful lot. I'm just so grateful that the collective Joy and Soul created this song, because I'm sure it could be more than one person. It could be just one person. I want to credit anyone who had anything to do with creating that, because it is one of the most powerful invocations. It basically includes the Ho'oponopono in it. But the Ho'oponopono is also something I highly, highly recommend. If you want to say a prayer every day, that's the one. Because what it does is it clears your karma. It clears the karma of other people. It creates a frequency that should be sitting on top of a mountain. Okay. And that is an ancient indigenous Hawaiian invocation. So, many different cultures have gotten it right. And you just have to find the invocation that works for you, that tells you the direction that your life is going to take. Because it is so powerful, because it is so conducive to human flourishing, what a contribution to humanity. Those are the two things that I highly recommend to people, simply because they're incredibly effective, and they're about sovereignty, they're about human flourishing and being true to yourself, authentic.
Right. Yes. And thank you so much for being here. How can anyone who feels called to connect with you in the way we were so uniquely, wonderfully blessed to be able to do, how can they reach out to you or find you?
It's all at IO Kirkwood. If you put my name in, you're gonna find me.
Thank you so much for being here. That was beyond wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for diving into the depths with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, show your support at buymeacoffee.com/mystical mermaid lounge, as every little ripple helps keep the magic flowing. Would you like some more deep, soul yearning conversations? Well, then swim on over to our sister podcast, Past Lives Cafe, where Keone deep dives into those past life experiences. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate and review and drop your feedback and comments at our website, mysticalmermaidlounge.buzzsprout.com. Thank you again so much, and don't forget to catch us at the next high tide. Bye-bye.